facade. God's not listening to you. He will not receive the offering of your phony tears and your hypocritical smile over the stench of an unforgiving spirit. 1 Corinthians 13, 2 through 4. Husbands, listen to this. God does not hear the prayer of a husband who will not forgive his wife. 1 Peter 3 and 7. Peter says your prayers are let. Let is an old English word. We still use it in tennis. When the ball hits the net and goes to the ground, it's let. And you have to do it over. God is saying, husband, when you are being abusive to your wife and you will not come together in a reconciliation with her, when you pray, your prayers hit the net and fall to the ground. George Herbert said, he who cannot forgive breaks the bridge over which he himself must pass. End of quote. Several years ago, I sat beside Corrie ten Boom in Dallas at a luncheon for Christian authors. As we sat there side by side, she described the horror of the Nazi concentration camp where she was sent for helping the Jews escape the iron fist of Hitler's Nazis. There she lost her sister, her father, and her nephew. If there was ever a reason to hate, she had one. The beatings, the starvation, the sadistic brutality of Hitler's monsters were etched into her brain. For years, she kept records of those who had abused her after she got out of the prison camp. Every offense, every date, every officer involved, every circumstance in graphic detail, waiting for a judge who would come along, who would give her justice. And she said, one day, while I was praying, the Lord spoke to me and said, I have forgiven you. Why don't you forgive them? And she said, I went and got those records and threw them all in the fire. And she said, when tears were flowing down my cheeks, I felt an invasion of the love of God that flooded my soul that I have never known in all of my life. Who is it in your life you need to take the mental records and throw it in the fire so that you can have a wonderful life? Why forgive? Not for the benefit of the other person, but for your benefit. Well, how often should I forgive? That's always the question. It was the question Peter asked. Shall I forgive 7 times? And Peter did it because in the Mosaic law, if you forgave someone 3 times, you were really special. So Peter upped the ante to 7 because 7 is the number of perfection, and he thought he was really being spiritual by offering the number 7. And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7, which is 490 times. Look at the prodigal son. And Jesus said the prodigal son had gone into a far country and he wasted his substance with riotous living. And when no man came to him, he was in that pig's pen, fighting them for something to eat. In his heart, he knew back home that he had a father that loved him enough to forgive him. And that knowledge saved his life. He got up and he shook the slime off of his body and started walking the long road home. The father was watching for him, and while he was a long way off, the father ran down the path to his boy. Here was the boy in rags who had the stench of a pig, and he put his arms around.
Jesus said yes, nobody can say no. When Jesus said yes, nobody can say no.
It is time for Yes with Yesse. Please welcome your host, Yesenia Leva.
89.1. Those of you on 89.1, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. 89.1 YouTube family, New Season Gospel FM. Thank you for joining. And I welcome you tonight. And I invite you to go ahead and share the broadcast, whether you are on social media, whether you are on YouTube, and you guys should definitely be hearing me. So let me know, give me a thumbs up, hearts, and anything else that you can to let me know that you are hearing me this evening. So thank you for joining. I hope that everyone is having a good evening, a good Thursday evening. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Sister Marcia. I hope that you guys are having an amazing evening. It's Thursday, it's Friday Eve. Tomorrow is Fun Friday, and we are ready for the weekend, guys. We are ready for the weekend. So I'm excited for that. And so we're going to go ahead and get started this evening as you guys are there with me and you begin to share the broadcast so that more people can join. I think that so many amazing things are happening. We have our days, guys. We are human, and it is okay to have our good days, our tough days, and our character building days. And I truly believe there's no such thing as a bad day. There's always something to learn in every single day. And if we're still breathing, we're still alive, we still have God on our side. We're blessed. And for as long as we're blessed, there's no bad day. So it's really a matter of mindset, our mindset towards our day to day. And that's something that I have to work on every single day and remind myself that for as long as I am living, God is by my side. I have good health and so many blessings. Life is not as bad as it might seem to us sometimes. In fact, quick little thing today, I was working and I was going about my day. I had a physical therapy appointment. I've been doing physical therapy since December, late November, early December, and it got rocky. I got sick and all that good stuff. Finally was able to go back, and my physical therapist says to me, "Jess, you're looking better. You're looking better than you looked before you started. When you look better now than you looked in the beginning when you first started physical therapy before you got sick." And I was like, I appreciate that, because sometimes God puts us in trials and tribulations that we think we are not going to overcome, that we're not going to be able to overcome for whatever reason, because it does get tough. And he gives us enough strength to overcome, but then he gives you the abundance and the strength and the peace and the love and all of it that surpasses all understanding, and you will get through it for as long as he is on your side. So I'm so grateful to still be here and to be a testimony that regardless of everything that I have been through in the past couple months, in the past year, I'm still standing, and I will continue to do what I got to do to keep it moving. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, there's always something to be grateful for. So today, guys, we know that it was Dr. Martin Luther King birthday on Monday, and it's a lot more than just a day off, right? It means so much to be able to celebrate that day. And we had an amazing morning on the Latin Monday show to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. And two other of my favorite days are today, actually, or are celebrated during this month. And that one of them is National Mentors Month, and the other one is National DJ Day. So today is National DJ Day, and the month of January is honoring mentoring, our National Mentoring Month. And I'll tell you why those are pretty cool. One, because as you guys know, I believe in mentors. I believe in those individuals in our lives that are there to pour life into you, to mentor you, to guide you and advise you. And I'm grateful to be that for other people as well, especially those that are marginalized or often forgotten, if you will, in society. And it's an honor to be a voice for them, a listening ear, and a guide for a better tomorrow. And I know so many have done that for me. in very recent times and even today. So I think that is very, very important, and that mentors really do matter. And National DJ Day is interesting because I love everything radio, microphone, DJing. I love all that stuff, all the communications related things. And I've had so many amazing opportunities in the past couple of years through my Funclusion productions and what I do to either be behind the mic, to be with popular DJs in South Florida and in our community here in South Florida. And it's really cool. So, as someone who has been told so many times that I would never be able to do any of that, to have been provided the opportunity, and for these individuals that I consider like so cool to see something in me and give me those opportunities that I so much have wanted, is really amazing. So I really appreciate community. I appreciate those people that see beyond that which makes us different. And so someone that saw way beyond that which makes us different was Martin Luther King. And if you guys don't know, we're going to learn something new today. We're going to learn something new. So not only was Martin Luther King like a huge, civil rights activist, and he was, or he became known for his "I Have a Dream" speech, of course, but he also helped to shape the disability rights movement. At the same time that the other stuff was going on, he also helped to shape the disability rights movement. When changes were beginning to be made for an increasing number of minorities, advocates for those with disabilities also joined that fight. So and this brought me back to today, like moving forward to 2022, 2021, 2022. You still see individuals with different disabilities advocating and fighting, in a sense, in the Capitol for human rights, for disability rights. And at one point, it became a brand to say disability rights are civil rights. Disability rights are civil rights. And so it goes as far back as these times, where an increasing number of minorities and advocates for those with disabilities joined during these times of advocacy. It was a time where parking spaces became available and equal access to building codes became available for individuals with disabilities, because Martin Luther King's brand, if you will, and his willingness to help people was to help all people. And this kind of became the beginning of the future of advocating individuals with disabilities and including disability rights into civil rights. Good evening, Mr. Earl. Good evening. Thank you for joining. As you come, guys, Sister Laurel, hi. Good to see you on. Please go ahead and share an invite. Thank you for coming on. And so all of those things were really important, and marked the parking spaces and equal access to building codes. What's interesting is that still today in 2022, we're still advocating for the same things that were advocated for way back then, right? And so that's to say that the battle never ends. The battle never ends. The advocacy, rather, never ends. And so it's a continuous thing that we have to do. It's definitely a continuous battle every single day. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed that made it illegal to discriminate, right, based on race, color, religion, or sex, or the national origin of the individual. If we all remember that, we see that all the time, even today. And so those with disabilities were not included yet. And the fight continued for another 3 decades before disability was included in that group, if you will, of we will not discriminate towards ABC, and including we will not discriminate towards individuals with disabilities. So that's interesting, because that's a long time. That's a long time to wait. In the meantime, in between time, that's a long time to wait. Keep on keeping on. That's right, Brother Earl. Keep on keeping on. You already know. You already know. So can you imagine waiting 3 more decades for disabilities to be included in the fight for that advocacy is crazy. So really, persons with disabilities continue to fight against the same injustices and still do so today. And even today, you see persons with disabilities, like I said earlier, right, protesting in the Capitol, protesting in the streets, because there's still things that we don't have the same rights as other people, or we don't have the rights, period, in that area. For example, I know I've shared this with you guys before. I have a support coordinator that provides case management services to me, if you will. And one day he said to me, one day you're going to end up in a facility based on your disability. And I was like, no. What I really said was, you're going to end up in a facility, but not because nobody knows. God willing, I won't. And nobody knows whether that's a yes or a no. However, I felt that he didn't have the right to tell me that. You don't have the right to tell me what I can or cannot do as it pertains to my disability or what's harder for me to do than it would be for another person to do. So you don't know. My goal is to be in a ranch, in a mansion with a bunch of my students, and where I can provide a sense of community for those that I work with. That's what one of my goals is, not to be in a facility dependent on others. And what's interesting is that that's exactly what was told to my parents when I was younger. They said, oh, you're going to have to institutionalize Jessie because of her spina bifida. She's going to have to go to a special school. And my mom continues to be a huge, to say it like that, she continues to be a huge advocate to where she was like, no, my daughter is not going to do that. I'm going to fight for my daughter and she is going to be okay. And so that with that attitude and with that perseverance and education is how I am here. You guys met her not too long ago. That's why I'm still here. If she would have budged into that mindset of disability, institutionalization, disability, no education, no abilities, no skills, the derogatory words that used to be used, which were like mental health, mentally retarded, or, handicapped, etc. If she would have believed that of me, then I would not have come as far as I have come. And so all of those things are things that so many people have continued to fight against since the Martin Luther King days. It just took so much longer to accomplish than the other things that we know about, right? And so we continue to fight. We continue to fight the fight today against very similar injustices. And even today, as persons with disabilities, protesting everywhere, and that should no longer be. And I know that we will continue to do so until there are true equal rights for all people. And when we say all people, no one is exempt from that bracket of all people, regardless of background, disability, gender, whatever it is. Rights are rights, especially or specifically as it pertains to going to school, getting a free and appropriate education, living in community with other people, coming to church, doing the things that you love to do. And so that's what it's all about. Sister Marcia said that she's glad you stood up for yourself. Man does not decide our faith. God does. He's the keeper of our faith, our future, and our destiny. And that is absolutely true. Our life, our skills, our talents, our everything goes into the hands of God, and let him decide what it is that he wants to do with our lives and who we are, and not man, right? Not man, not people, not society, nobody else. And so it's interesting because we talk about all of these changes, and even today, or I should say, one of the things that happened was that people with disabilities were being marginalized and forced into institutions. They were considered a burden. And so today, I don't believe we see it as much, but I know for a fact that it still exists because I advocate for individuals with disabilities. I can remember at least from recent times 2 stories where these young men and young women in high school, post-secondary education, were kicked out of school and told that they could no longer go to school and they would have to go somewhere else or go find a job. And I'm like, absolutely not. As soon as the mom and dad contacted me for advocacy, I was like, absolutely not. That's not happening. And we got them re-enrolled in school so that they can complete their high school education and move forward from that. Post-secondary doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. Post-secondary can be college, can be a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, a group home, volunteering if they're not able to work. So let's figure out what that is for people versus just putting them off to the side or setting them off to the side and not paying any attention to what they can do and who they are as a human being, right? You guys always hear me say person first, disability second. And to understand that as a society is changing that mindset of people with disabilities are burdens or are a burden. We're not a burden. We want to work. We want to do all of these things. There is help out there for those that perhaps can't, literally and physically cannot. That doesn't mean that we are a burden. Let's find ways to help one another, to help those individuals figure their way, figure their lifestyle, the things that they can do. And let's go from there using community, using the skills, using the resources that are available to help them versus just pushing them off to the side. The same way, if you think about it, it's the same way that as it pertains to racial and ethnicity and even gender-wise, nobody wants to be put off to the side. Nobody wants to be discounted. Nobody wants to be made feel less than. So neither do people with disabilities. Neither do people with disabilities, and it's crazy and kind of painful that we still that it's something that we still have to advocate for today. And the reason I believe for that is because of the lack of education, the perception, the negative perception that currently still exists as it comes to disabilities. And so the more that we interact, the more educated that we are, the more that people with disabilities like myself are out into society and make it okay to be the first one in the room and sometimes the only one in the room. Only then are we going to see a real change of the inclusion and diversity of everyone, including individuals with disabilities. But like I said, and I hope you catch that, and I'm going to share this and do my best to spread it, but you have to be okay with being the first one in the room. You have to be okay with being the first one in the room. I've been the first one and the only one in many rooms, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I remember when I got into the political world for different reasons, I was the only one in the room. A lot of times I'm still the only one in the room, but I have been able to do different things in the political world. I've spoken in front of the Senate. I've gone to the Capitol. I've been able to do these things because I was okay with being the first one in the room and sometimes the only one in the room. And that is what I advocate for anyone with a disability that has a goal, that has something that they want to have changed. Get out, get out there and go get it, and be okay with being the only one in the room. And what that turns into is representation. I always say, and I always type, and you guys see it in a lot of my posts, representation matters. So if representation matters, you have to be okay with being the only one in the room, and being okay with inviting others along with you. As uncomfortable as it might be sometimes, as different as you think it is, whatever the case, you have to be okay with it and realize that really there is no difference in anything. It's just doing it. We're all human. We all want the same thing, which is to be included, and we have to be okay with being the only one in the room until somebody else comes along and makes you feel included and comfortable, so on and so forth. So that's a side note, but that is very, very important as it pertains to all this advocacy and all these things that we're talking about, is because somebody was okay with using their voice. Somebody was okay with advocating for all people, regardless of the consequences. Because I'm sure he knew there would be consequences, and he was okay with it. Good evening, Sister Sister Diane. Good evening. Thank you for joining. So you have to be okay with sometimes being the only one in the room, guys, and make it okay. Make it okay. Make it okay. So, fun facts. Fun fact, a little bit. During the 60s and 70s, for example, these are things that came about, right? Social Security was extended to those people under 50 years old. The mass transit systems were required to include wheelchair lifts. Buildings were now mandated to be accessible. Children with disabilities could no longer be excluded from public schools. And schools and universities began to receive funding for the establishments of programs to help those who need special accommodation. So all of these things became available in the 60s and the 70s. And yet today, again in 2022, we just started, so we're gonna say 2021, we're still fighting with those same things, guys. We're still fighting with the lack of funding. We're still fighting with, I believe it's private schools that are not required by law to provide accommodations to individuals with disabilities. We still have schools kicking our kids out of school because they don't want to attend or accommodate them as they need to legally. They don't want our students to be a liability to them. These things are still happening. And I say that to say that we cannot be blinded by what has happened and what has been put into place and pushed forward to say, oh, okay, everything is okay because, this one person has advocated for this. No, because the I don't want to say the struggle, but that journey continues because it still exists today. It's a constant battle. It's a constant change. It's a constant advocacy that is needed in all of these areas. All of these areas. And it's interesting. I just remembered that one of our counties here at home have it's kind of like a diversity and inclusion section or group within our school system, kind of to talk about the disparities, if I'm saying it correctly, of the racial, the different races that exist and how many people with disabilities within that. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, statistically, I guess, it might be needed or whatnot, but I'm from a mindset that people are people and everybody deserves an opportunity and everybody deserves to be serviced and provided a service that they need for their independence and their well-being. So, I think that too often we're still causing the division amongst ourselves. We're still causing that division among ourselves versus just treat people like people. Just treat people like humans and forget the rest of it, right? If only the world would be that simple and that easy. So I do know that exists in the school system and I wanted to actually get involved. But then when I learned more about it, I was like, no, no. I didn't agree with a lot of those, I didn't agree with the mindset. I didn't agree with a lot of things. So I just decided to stay away from there because I think that sometimes, even though we're advocating for like I said, actually, even though we're advocating for that accessibility and that inclusivity in a sense for all people, at the same time, sometimes we cause division. Because to me, when it comes to disability, all children can have autism, not different ethnical backgrounds or different races of children. So why am I dividing it in that way as it pertains to providing a service to only white kids or only Hispanic kids? I'm going to provide a service to all kids across the board, regardless of where they're from or where their parents are from. So in my opinion, I think that just causes more division that is not necessary because we should be providing services across the board, regardless of any of those statistical backgrounds or statistical numbers. It's just crazy to me. And I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be okay with that or understand that because I really do not. I really do not. So yeah, a lot of different changes between the 60s and the 70s to now. We have definitely come a long way though definitely have come a long way. And today, there's still so much opportunity of establishments of equality for all people. But like I said, it's specifically for those with disabilities. So yeah, even though we focus on one thing or on one item, you know, for example, with Dr. Martin Luther King and the civil rights are across the board. Civil rights are across the board, and they definitely affect all people. They definitely affect all people. But I'm excited that I'm happy that that one person, because literally all it takes is that one person to stand up and to say, this is not okay. This is not okay, and we got to keep it moving. And I have worked hard to make sure that I'm one of those people to stand up for people and for people with disabilities as well. And let it be known when something is not okay, because I've been there. I've done that. Been there, done that. So I definitely have a passion for it, and I take pride in knowing that, because of what I do and because of who I have become, and because of the knowledge that I have and what I have learned through experience and through knowledge of learning, we can make a difference together. Together, we can make a difference and make sure everyone has an opportunity. So I love that. I love that sense of community, the sense of inclusion, that sense of that we all matter, because we do, and may we never forget that. We all matter, no matter what. And you guys matter too on the other side of the screen. So if you guys are there and you know of anyone that needs any of the services that New Season has to offer, please feel free to give us a call. Our contact information is on the screen. Yes, Sister Laurel, for sure. You can always visit us at newseasonfm.com. And don't forget, we always need and always greatly appreciate your support, because we are better together. We are better together. And the ways to give, if you're interested in giving, guys, it's Cash App $New Season WC. Cell is 954-536-1821. And you can go right on the website, newseasonfm.com, to hear music 24/7, to support your favorite radio station, and share it with your family and friends. And don't forget, tomorrow is Fun Friday. Fun Friday. So join Pastor Steve and Pastor Henry tomorrow, bright and early. It's going to be amazing. And we will see you back here on Sunday for church. And then on Monday, or as I like to call it, Monday, for Latin Monday. Latin Monday, which is always fun, first thing in the morning alongside Pastor Steve. So don't forget it. And I want to leave you guys with a couple quotes. I'm a quote girl, okay? I'm a quote girl, and I probably go on the internet and check out quotes first thing in the morning a lot, because I think that those definitely kind of set up a mood for your day and teach you a little something. And so these are quotes that became known and famous with Dr. Martin Luther King. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep going. It is not possible to be in favor of justice for some people and not be in favor of justice for all people. I love that one too. Our lives begin to end the day that we become silent about the things that matter most. And almost always, the creative, dedicated minority have made the world better. So with that, guys, let's make the world a better place. Let's help those that need it most. Let's be a helping hand to one another and know that we are better together. So again, I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday for Latin Monday. And of course, join us again tomorrow on the Pastor Steve Show for a fun morning. So do me a favor again. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and share the broadcast. Share the broadcast. And like us on New Season Gospel FM on Facebook. Follow. And I will see you guys again on Monday. Have a great day, guys.
See, yes, I got it. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.